And so Memento Mori is a Latin term for remember you will die. And so what's the point of living if you're not gonna, chase your biggest and wildest dream? And so what I learned though in the process is like the least important detail about someone's life is how they died. The most important thing that you can do for yourself is manage your own energy and take 100% responsibility for the energy that you choose to live your life in. And so life isn't fair and never will be. You'll never understand it, and that's kind of the great mystery. And if you live in that curiosity, you'll never get old. Grief is not a linear thing. There's people that have gone through it before, and you're not alone. And we're not meant to heal alone. I'm gonna call it Happy Life Labs because none of these technologies or sciences matter if you're not happy, right? And so happiness is an inside job, right? And self-love is self-respect. And people can feel that. People can feel that energetic, that feeling. And age is not a number, and age is your energy. And so life is just way too short not to take a risk for happiness. And so it's our responsibility and duty to seek happiness and joy in everything that we do. Direction is more important than speed. Be the energy that you want to attract. When we travel, we're able to better understand how we fit into the fabric of the world. I have to pre-apologize to most people because once they fly our airline, they typically never go back. I know that once you have that experience, you're gonna have a hard time going back to flying first class. The whole world of aviation is taking a big up level. I know that this is the industry that is going to see the most disruption. I personally picked up 56 people from a seriously dangerous situation. The more you understand who you are, like the more unbearable it becomes to be who you're not. Like literally, if we were saving hundreds of people, authenticity has the vibrational frequency that is about 1,000 times more strong than love.
What is going on in your life right now? Are you soaring to the highest levels of success right now and living the life of your dreams? Or maybe you've received word recently that a friend or a family member had an accident, or maybe received a diagnosis that's life-altering or maybe even life-ending, and you're struggling to find meaning in your life and even just to be able to move forward. If that is where you are, either one of those extremes, life is an extreme sport, and we experience extremes in success and sorrow. And no matter what your experience is right now, I am 100% certain that you're going to find at least one little thing in today's show that will help you make huge progress towards happiness, prosperity, and purpose, because today's guest is on a mission to inspire you to discover and do what inspires you. And I'm thrilled to have my friend, somebody that I look up to and admire in so many different ways, Brett Harmeling, with me today. Brett, welcome to Plain Success.
Awesome, Alan. Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. I'm just happy to spend this time with you and those listening to really bring some value to the table so that we can make meaningful action and healing and living a better life together.
I know that is exactly what we're going to accomplish. I need to give my guests some background on Brett, and I was blown away as I started digging into what you've accomplished in what seems like a relatively short amount of time. You look like you're about 22 years old. I'm sure that's maybe exaggerating the truth a little bit, but Brett is the founder and CEO of Happy Life Labs. He's the director and a partner with VeraJet, which I'm super excited to learn more about that. And an is it ERYT, Brett? Do I just say the initials or do I pronounce it?
Yeah, that just stands for Experienced Registered Yoga Teacher.
He's an experienced registered yoga teacher, 500. And I'm going to let you explain what that is a little bit later. You're on the board of directors for Aerial Recovery. You're on the board of advisors for Hives for Heroes. And you're also training to be a pilot. And on top of all of that, Brett has one of the best beards I've ever seen. So, Brett, I'll be honest, when I look at you, I see a man who looks healthy, happy, appears to be really successful. You're doing amazing things for other people in charities all over the world. You've been to 57 something countries, 38 of the 50 states. So were you from like the same planet as Superman, or are there some specific decisions, practices that any of the rest of us mere mortals can adopt and live a life like what you're living right now?
Yeah. I mean, I've lived my life in mantras ever since coming into kind of the world of yoga back in 2012. And so, Memento Mori is a Latin term for remember you will die. And so, what's the point of living if you're not going to, chase your biggest and wildest dreams? Like, oftentimes, even myself, someone that lives on the extreme end of that pendulum, I'm still finding myself playing small. And so, when I think about Memento Mori and what that means, I think about the people that I've lost that have been very close to me in my life. And I think about how blessed I am to even be able to go for a run, and how blessed I am to even have to solve very complicated global problems that involve human trafficking, or connecting the world better, more efficiently through a private aviation venture. So there's lots of ways, and it's like when you know what your why is, then the how is easy. And it might not be simple, but it's easy because you'll figure it out and there's a way. And so I've just always been just passionately curious about living a full life. And so, thankfully I found a partner that supports that as well. And that now my practice is to show that to my kid, Logan, and just the people that are around me, and just share that it is possible to do a lot of things and live a full life without being overwhelmed.
So, Brett, it sounds like you've really discovered purpose in your life. That's what I'm hearing as you describe this mantra. And I read recently that our purpose is often conceived in pain. And another word for conceive is conception. And I know that word took on a whole different meaning for you and your family not very long ago. And can you maybe walk us through that experience, and how has that experience brought purpose and meaning to your life?
Yeah. So what Alan is referring to is my sister Christy, whose heavenly birthday was yesterday, actually. Excuse me. So my sister Christy, her heavenly birthday was on February 6th, so 2 days ago. But we lost her in a tragic boat fire with 33 other people, that could have been prevented. And so why this was a challenging thing is my sister was one of those people that really taught me how to live fully and with like big spirit, big energy, like full send, all in, all the time. And so she's responsible for me kind of like embarking on this new journey. And when she left this fast, I was like, wow, memento mori, like this is a really real thing. And so what I learned through that process, and this happened for a little over 4 years ago on Labor Day weekend. Um, Funny enough, like my family has been chartering the same boat called the Conception Dive Boat for since 1972, and so no problems until about 4 years ago. But her and 33 other people are now dancing in the heavens, and so what I learned though in the process is like the least important detail about someone's life is how they died. So whether that's a stroke, a boat fire, a gunshot, age, cancer, I know all those things are really hard to think about, but if you stop thinking about how a person has transitioned and you think about the beautiful spirit that they left us with, there's a lot of power in that. Because if I focus on how she died, I get angry, emotions of like almost rage come up sometimes. And I'm like, man, it shouldn't have happened. When I think about who Christy was and just the fact that she's not here, I can live in the embodiment of her spirit. And so it's such a different energy and frequency. And that's something that I want to really hit home today, is that the most important thing that you can do for yourself is manage your own energy and take 100% responsibility for the energy that you choose to live your life in. Life is happening for us, not to us. And you might be like, well, Brett, your sister died. How don't you feel like why did that happen to me? No, I'm like, why did that happen for me? And now what do I get to do with this lesson? And so life isn't fair and never will be. You'll never understand it. And that's kind of the great mystery. And if you live in that curiosity, you'll never get old. And that's what led me to founding and running a very powerful longevity, health and wellness, anti-aging company called Happy Life Labs. I help people live better, higher quality lives using science and technology.
I want to hear more about Happy Life Labs, but I'm also really curious to know. I imagine you didn't arrive at all of those truths and managing your energy and stuff in the moment that you found out about the loss of your sister. What was that process? How long did it take you to get there? What were some of the steps? You and I both found out very recently of a friend, someone in our network who at a young age has taken that step into immortality. And I just can't help but thinking today what the journey in front of him, or in front of his family, looks like for his wife and for his kids. Are there specific things for people that are struggling with grief or loss right now that you implemented that helped you arrive to a place of such peace? What were some of those specifics?
Yeah, so I think the biggest things for finding peace in traumatic or life altering situations, and also my father just had a stroke last week, and so right now, and then yeah, losing close one of our guys here in Houston actually, who's a part of a group that Alan and I are involved in called Go Abundance. Losing him with three kids and a wife at 39 years old to a heart attack, it's just like it's really real how delicate life is. Because if you looked at this man, you'd be like, wow, he's strong. He can get through anything. He's just a machine, successful businessman. And like God just took him and he's gone and he's left, his family here. And so I think the biggest thing, Alan, to focus on if you're feeling trapped, stuck, shame, anger, depressed, etc., whatever the feeling is to just allow yourself to feel it and then find a community or a circle or a group and just that you trust and you can feel comfortable sharing in, and then share, because you're not alone. Like you're like nobody's like there's been a lot of people that have lost someone from a heart attack and then they've had to deal with it, and so they've been through this experience. With my sister's situation, I can speak to the kind of tragic death type experience because I've been through it. The thing is you have to also fundamentally understand the grieving process. And this thing has been studied for a long time. And there's 6 stages of it. And it's shock. You move then through denial, it's like you almost can't sleep because you can't believe it happened. And then you move into anger, and then you bargain, like, oh, like what if I would have done something differently? And then depression seeks in, and then typically you test it. You're like you feel testing, like you feel like, oh, like whatever. And then the last part of the grieving process is acceptance. And the crazy part about that process is like you may be stuck in one of those spaces for longer than normal period of time, but it's important to recognize where you're at in that process because it'll allow you to move forward and allow you to seek help based on where you're in the process. Grief is not a linear thing. So when something happens, it's not like, okay, it's really bad right now, it's going to get better. Like, I just randomly think about my sister when I see things like whales, which was her spirit animal, when I hear like Jack Johnson on the radio and Bob Marley, when I see surfing, when I'm around water, when I'm doing yoga, like that's when I feel the presence of my sister who's no longer here in physical form. And so it's important to just know where you're at on your journey, to own it, and then to seek help and tell the truth, because there's people that have gone through it before and you're not alone, and we're not meant to heal alone.
How did that experience of moving through that grief cycle inform your yoga practice, inform founding Happy Life Lab? Is it Happy Life Labs? How did it inform those decisions? And also recently, is the grief? Do you feel like you're experiencing that now with your dad? I lost my dad to a stroke 3.5 years ago, and I can tell you when I saw that news in your social media feed, I was right back into my office looking at the text message that came from my brother. I think Dad just had a stroke. How soon can you get here? And it wasn't soon enough. You know, he was air flighted, and 4 days later, we lost him, and there was never an opportunity to say goodbye. So it sucked me, just like you said. It could be 3.5 years later, and I feel like I'm doing really good right now. I've moved through those cycles, but man, you see something like that, you hear something like that, you hear a song at the gym, and wham, you're right back into that cycle. So, I have to imagine that with getting that news from your dad, that there's some of that's going on right now too.
Yeah, totally. And the whole thing with Happy Life Labs is like there's all these really good concepts about living better and longer, and you can go down the rabbit hole in terms of the science. And so I'm going to call it Happy Life Labs because none of these technologies or sciences matter if you're not happy, right? And so happiness is an inside job, right? And self-love is self-respect, and people can feel that. People can feel that energetic, that feeling. And age is not a number, and age is your energy. And so during the healing process, the more that you let go, which you have to do it in a safe place, or I recommend that you do, then the more you let in, right? And so life is just way too short not to take a risk for happiness. And so it's our responsibility and duty to seek happiness and joy in everything that we do, but also trust the process, right? And so even in business, it's like business or grieving, right? Direction is more important than speed. Same thing with flying, right? So even if you're going slow through a process, at least you're going in the right direction. It doesn't matter how fast you're going. You're navigating the storm that's in front of you at the time. Like, it's not a hypothetical storm. It's the storm you're in, whether it's in your mind or it's in your life. And so it's training ourselves, because our bodies are innately intelligent. We're incapable of lying to ourselves. And so it's shifting the mind from reaction to responsiveness. And so that's where yoga and just practicing santosha, which is contentment, really taps us into our core of what's important. And if you think about what's important, it's like, how do I get myself happy again? How do I get myself happy again? It could be a cup of coffee. It could be a walk. It could be a prayer. It could be running a marathon. Like, everyone has their own thing, right? And now my thing is doing things like this and sharing that wisdom that I've learned at a young age, because more than anything, I want people to know they're not alone in their healing process. And there is resources and people like you, Alan, and myself that are more than happy to open our hearts to hold space for people to heal in whatever capacity that looks.
Yeah, I love that you shared that. I think there's a lot of common threads in your experience and my experience. I'll be honest, after losing my dad, I told my wife, just bury me in the same grave with him. My dad was my hero. We were business partners for years. We were fishing buddies. We did everything together. And it seemed like that was ripped away. And, all of a sudden I was faced with very big questions like, what is the meaning of all this? Here I've been really successful. I've earned a lot of money. And my dad was 66. I'm 43. What if there's only 23 more of these revolutions around the sun? Like, do I want family vacations to be the same? Do I want my life to be the same? And the answer in most cases was no. And I wrote down on a note card, I still have it in my office behind me, I came to the realization there are really only 3 things that mattered to me that have really informed every decision that I've made from that moment forward. It was happiness, prosperity, and purpose. And I think, like you said, happiness is an inside job. Finding a purpose usually is something that's outside of you and bigger than you, something that inspires you. And prosperity, I think, directly connects with your journey through health and healing, whether that's mental health, physical health, emotional health, financial health. And one of the beautiful things about these experiences that we share is once you've had that experience, at least for me, I wanted to turn around and see who else was going through the fire who else is having this experience, because I know how that feels. And you just want to put your arms around them and walk them through and let them know, yeah, this is going to be painful. It's going to hurt for a while. And at the end of that, you're going to discover something really beautiful. So just keep taking steps forward and call me, text me. Let's get together as often as possible so that you're not doing this alone. Is that what you feel like you've experienced? Because it seems like that's what you've done. You moved through the process on your own, and now you're helping thousands of people from what I've been able to see.
Yeah. I think the kind of what I've wrapped my head around in terms of like why did this happen for me? Why have these things happen for me? It's because I do feel called as a healer to help people come closer to their higher power and to God. Because without him, it's just undeniable. I mean, it's my belief that it's undeniable that we can't live a truly full life, because we're trying to actually play our higher power, and that gets in the way of like actually from us being present and being and like living in a bigger way. And so it's actually really powerful when you say, when, I wake up every day and say, God, how can I serve today? Like, show me how to serve you today. How do I serve the world? How do I give what you've given me to the world? And that process is, I call it, that transitioning wounds into wisdom. And so when we're able to do that, we're able to really create a unparalleled energy that people like you and I that have gone through it before understand. But when you're going through the process, it feels lonely, it feels scary, you feel like angry. Like I said, there is the grieving process. And so it's just important to know where you're at and own where you're at on that process, because you will be okay, right? Like, you're going to be okay. And the last thing that you want to do is put out the energy into the world that you're not okay, and that things and that like that frequency. What you want to do is attract the frequency of like, I am okay, I'm going to heal, like. And so be the energy that you want to attract is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I want to honor your sister a little bit. As I was doing research to prepare for our conversation today, I just felt really drawn to the life that she lived. And I found her mission statement. And I want to read that because I think there's some really interesting parallels between what she was trying to do, what she felt called to do, and what you're doing right now. You've probably already seen that, but if not, I want to illustrate that for you and for anybody that's listening. Christy said, "My mission is to inspire appreciation for the underwater world. I feel incredibly fortunate to be in the service of helping people invest in experiences of a lifetime." And she did that for her whole life, right? From the time that she was a toddler until the day that she died. Literally, she was fulfilling the purpose that she felt that she had. I think it's really interesting now with what you're doing with VeraJet, that you're taking that same mission that she had to help people go deep into the ocean and explore the underwater world, and you're taking them to a higher level and allowing them to experience private or semi-private aviation. How have you found purpose in that? And talk to us a little bit about VeraJet, because I think this is really an exciting topic for pilots and aviators, and really anybody that people dream for their whole life about flying in a private jet. And now you're providing that.
Yeah, it's been a really exciting venture. I've transitioned from technology into technology, which is masqueraded by an airline. And so people think like VeraJet, oh, another airline charter. I'm like, no, we're an airline, much like Southwest Airlines. And what makes us really special is the technology that kind of runs the backbone of our organization. And so I say that because not only do we utilize the world's safest, most sustainable aircraft at the moment, we're actually agnostic to what we use. And so as planes advance and things change, we can just plug those resources into the technology and create an even better offering as we scale. And so what's exciting about it most for me is As I've found through my travels, my expansive travels globally as well as nationally, that when we travel, we're able to better understand how we fit into the fabric of the world, because we're able to see different cultures, we're able to see how different people think, act, do business, etc. And so when you're able to understand that, you're like, wow, well, this is who I am, and so I could actually make an impact in this community. And this goes into like Carl Jung's like hero's journey type thing, where you leave, you go through an initiation process, you learn some things about yourself or a skill set, you get challenged, and then you either win or learn, and then you bring that skill set and that wisdom back into your community. And so what I love about aviation and this VeraJet venture that we're building right now is that we're really kind of dismantling the hub and spoke system in America specifically, where we're going to get people to where they want to go faster, safer, more efficiently. And it really comes down to that. And we've done a great job. We've done 12,000 revenue flights, roughly $60 million in revenue since 2020. And so we're not like small anymore. We're rescaling right now. And obviously with rescaling and restructuring to go big comes uncomfortability. And so we're in that growth phase right now, and so we're doing everything we can to leverage the resources and collective intelligence we have to move it to the next level. Eventually, we'll have like 900 aircraft in America, and then we'll be also in Europe, Saudi Arabia, other places like that, where it makes sense for short haul regional travel.
So you talked there a lot about technology. Can you maybe walk through a little bit what is the aircraft that you're using, and what does that technology look like? From hey, Alan Underwood wants to travel somewhere. I'm in touch with VeraJet. How does technology enhance that experience from when I discover you, when I book a flight, after I land? Walk me through that.
Yeah, so companies such like Wheels Up, for instance, is just an easy example. They have to have hundreds of people working to be able to manage the flight schedules, book where the plane's going to be, make sure that there's not any overlap or gaps to have operational efficiency. We have an AI technology that allows you to just go to our website, put in your actual location to where you're going to go, like the actual hotel, and then give you a quote within 200 milliseconds. So in under 2 minutes, you know immediately like how much like if flying VeriJet is an option for you, and if it's a possibility. And so as we increase the amount of aircraft in our fleet, you'll start to see a more hyper-connected United States because we'll have more aircraft. Our AI has run a major airline's private jet business for a long time now. And what's cool about that technology is it's proprietary to our founder and CEO, Richard. And so we're in a good spot with that because we could sell that technology to other people, but we utilize it for our own airline. And so the type of aircraft that we're using specifically right now is the Cirrus SF-50 Vision Jet G2 plus or above. And the reason for that is it has an auto land feature, which if something happened to the pilot, you could push a button and the aircraft would use AI and technology, find the nearest airport, and then land itself, which is like hard to even imagine. But in our demo flights, we actually do that. We get clearance for that occasionally to do it, as long as the airport's not busy, of course. And then this aircraft only burns between 40 and 80 gallons per hour in fuel, which is really good for really good. We're like considered the only carbon neutral airline in the world. And then ultimately, the reason that celebrities and affluent people, like leaders of major Fortune 100 companies, end up flying our airline is because our jets are the only jets in the world that currently have a parachute. And so, let's say all hell breaks loose, and there's no auto land function available, or something crazy happens. You can pull, and a parachute will deploy, and the entire aircraft gently lands to planet Earth. And so really the only risk of death in flying our aircraft is between 0 and 600 feet. And so that's a pretty low risk because you wouldn't take off if you knew there was going to be an issue with taking off. So
I love all of that. And I want to go on one of those test flights and watch that thing land itself.
Yes.
As a pilot, I know that the most difficult phase of flight often is landing the plane, getting it back onto the ground. So the fact that technology has evolved to the point where that is even possible, I mean, what an amazing feature and level of comfort that has to provide for your passengers. What other kind of unique services and experiences does this private opportunity in aviation provide for people? Do you have? I'm just thinking of the person that, like, for their whole life has envisioned getting to a point where they can travel in a private jet. Tell me about some of those experiences. You've got to just see people lighting up at the opportunity to do this and just having a thrill inside this amazing aircraft.
Yeah, I have to pre-apologize to most people because once they fly our airline, they typically never go back. And I say that because it is like getting in a Tesla for the first time. These aircrafts are super technologically advanced. They're super quiet. Our call sign is actually VeraJet. And so there's a flutter reduction system. So much like a yacht has ballasts for waves, this jet has a V-tail, and the V-tail has it's connected to the forward-looking infrared, and so it actually reduces the turbulence, right, when you're going through it. And so even though it's small, it's really comfortable. And then when you're inside, since the aircraft is made out of carbon fiber, a lot of the aircraft is windows, and so it feels massive inside because you're looking out all these beautiful windows at what you should be looking at, which is outside. And so that's cool. But our going rate right now is like dynamic pricing, but it starts at $4,000 an hour, and it seats 4 adults and 2 kids. And so it's very reasonable if you have a short haul flight to bring your family on that experience. Just think about like going somewhere that's an hour or even 2 hours, and you bring the whole family, dogs, whatever it is. That's an unforgettable experience. And that's why I apologize, because I know that once you have that experience, you're gonna have a hard time going back to flying first class. If you do the the cost analysis and breakdown, if you have three adults, definitely if you have 4 adults, but if you have 3 adults, oftentimes it's really the same cost as flying first class. So we get like a lot of attorneys that fly like last minute that want to just get to where they're going faster and bill their clients. They'll fly us without even thinking about it because it's such a low cost option instead of taking out a bird that's much bigger that they fit 6 to 10 people, but there's 2 people. It's just kind of a huge waste of resources and gas and an impact on the environment. We're just made for, because when you usually travel, you think about it, it's like 2 to 4 people, and so we really are targeting smaller families, and then bit smaller businesses, which is where the world and economy is heading.
So what we've talked kind of about the traveler experience, and that sounds amazing. Looking forward to being invited on one of those flights with you, Brett.
Soon.
What about I'm assuming that people are investing in this with you. What is the opportunity? Is there one for investors? And then also there's a lot of people that will be listening to the show that are interested in becoming pilots. What do you have to do to become a pilot for VeraJet? What are the requirements that you're looking for? And what does that career path look like for them?
Yeah. So we get asked this question a lot, like, how are you going to get the pilots, right? Well, if you don't know this, you should. That Sirius SR-22 has been the #1 selling private jet or private plane for 24 years straight. Okay. And so if you have the type rating to be able to fly that aircraft and you understand how to fly it, which is a very simple aircraft to fly in my opinion, then you're only 1 rating away from being able to fly the Vision Jet. And so that if you knock it out, you're like you can knock it out in like 1 to 2 weeks, honestly. But you definitely have to have the flight hours. Then you have to have, we do have a training program, and it's very rigorous. We make sure our pilots are not only professional but also personable, because the aircraft is so small, our pilots are directly engaging with the customers. It's not like you go in the plane and they shut the door. It's like you can sit in the right seat, which is a very cool experience for someone that's never done it. Because the visibility and just like seeing the controls right at your fingertips is a really cool thing. And so we do have a whole training program, as well as you got to meet the FAA guidelines for AOC, which is Airline Operator Certificate. And so but it's single engine, so you don't have to do the multi-engine thing and stuff like that. So it's like, because we're so serious about the quality of pilots bringing, it's tougher, but it's not as challenging as having like a commercial pilot's license and things like that.
Awesome. And what about for the person that isn't a pilot, can't afford to fly VeraJet, but like me for a long time, you have airplane flies overhead and you're turning your head and looking. What about that aviation enthusiast community? How do you engage with people that are just really curious about aviation, curious about the Vision Jet, and want to learn more? Are you hosting any events? Do you do anything like that?
Yeah, so we just locked down a pretty sizable investment round, and so when I mentioned earlier that we're growing and scaling in a big way, part of that process is we will be doing activations and events across the nation. The reason that we are restructuring and growing is because we kind of did proof of concept, and we're showing that we couldn't even come close to meeting the demand. And so now that we're going to rescale, have the aircraft, on our balance sheet instead of leasing them from individuals, then we will be able to capture that revenue and continue adding jets month over month over month until we get to the number where it makes the most sense. And so the answer is yes, we plan on having events, but there are, if you're interested in aviation, like I just was like, and maybe not everyone can do this, but just go do a demo flight. Just go to your small regional airport, call a flight school and say, hey, I want to do a demo flight. And just go on a little Cessna and just get the experience of being in a small plane. It's like, it will change your life, right? Because you'll be freaked out at first, and then you'll get comfortable, and you're like, oh, then you'll decide whether it's for you or not, right? And then moving up the scale. And so when I sold my last tech company, I was like, and then this aviation, I was doing a keynote presentation, and then before my presentation was Richard Kane talking about the future of travel, and it literally blew my mind, and I just shook this guy's hand, and I'm like, I'm going to help you do that. And I had no idea how I was going to help him, but here we are today. So I'm an executive on the team and partner, and just thrilled to be able to solve these very complicated problems.
And you're learning how to fly right now. So you were one of those guys that just showed up and had a demo flight. So tell me about your flying experience so far, highs, lows. How has that experience been for you?
Well, being a dad and a husband, I'm like really serious. So I take things like safety first 100%. I take no shortcuts. I'm actually learning on a Cessna 172 right now. I will flex into my training into SR22 soon. And then from there, because I'll likely have a Vision Jet to demo out and fly myself places in the next couple of years as we scale. Because it makes the most sense, right? If I'm going to a conference to speak, I want to be at that conference with the product that we're actually selling and promoting. And so that'll be really exciting because it's an amazing aircraft. And so I just think that the whole world of aviation is taking a big up level. And the reason that I got into aviation is not only like because I want to be able to go wherever, whenever I want, but I know that this is the industry that is going to see the most disruption. Because every other industry is taking major upgrades with the advancement of technology and AI and things like that. And so I just know that like nothing in the world of transportation has really changed. And so the world of private aviation only can get better. And I want to be considered a pioneer in that space, which leads me to even sharing that, we already have commitments and agreements with Beta Technologies, which is an eVTOL company, which stands for Electric Vertical Takeoff and Landing. And so that will take you from your office to the private airport, so you won't even have to get in a car, or from your driveway to the private airport. And those use electricity, roughly $20 per hour in electricity. They go about 300 knots. Actually, they're pretty quick.
Wow.
And they're really, they're really functional and really safe. And so this is like phase 2 of VeriJet. So the first phase is taking people out of first class, and then the second phase is taking people out of business and economy.
That's incredible, Brett. Now we've talked about some difficult experiences on the ocean with your sister. We've talked about the future of aviation and the experience you're having becoming a pilot. There's some ethos that we haven't explored yet, and you've had some amazing experiences on the ground that have been really formative for your life. One of them that I don't know anything about, but I'm excited to learn about, is you took a trip to Ethiopia with the founder of Lululemon. Can you tell us about that? How did that come to be, and what was the impact that had on your life?
Yeah, so part of leading others is leading yourself. And so I call it self-leadership mastery. And so I did this program with an organization called Light Your Leadership. And this program was built by the director of culture for Lululemon, who happens to be married to the person who brought Lululemon to America, so the president of Lululemon America, whose brother is and his wife are the founders who live in Vancouver. And so it's all connected. It's close circles. Anyway, during my yoga teacher training, I got exposed to this Light Year leadership body of work, and I did all of the trainings and things like that. And then the end of that training program is doing what's called like a global give back. And so we raise money to build a community in Africa, and it's through an organization called Imagine One Day. And it's giving people not only the access to quality education, but access to leading themselves and taking responsibility for their communities. And so we not only funded this community, we funded it for 5 years. We installed and implemented this same training that I went through, but in Ethiopia, to people of a way lower socioeconomic class, so that they could take the tools that they learned and actually build the community versus like just throwing money at a problem, right? And so what's cool, it's like, oh, the window breaks, we're not fixing it we're not fixing it for you. We're giving you the tools and the leadership learnings and teachings so that you can be an entrepreneur and you can learn how to get money to fix the window yourself. And so, but it all starts with clean water and actually having some shelter. And so we understand that that's a huge first step. And so we went out over there for a couple of weeks, almost a month actually, and helped build this community, as well as just really taught these communities how to become better leaders. And when I say leaders, I mean leading themselves. And then from there, you see it trickle down and transition into generations where someone thought they'd be a water carrier their whole life. Now all of a sudden they're a math teacher, because we unlock that possibility for them. And so it's like you really almost witness people like unslaving themselves from like not having the possibility to be something to I can be anything, and so living in choice.
Has helping other people have that realization heightened that awareness within yourself? Has that been, or do you feel like you developed that first and then you were sharing it, or tell me about the synergy between what you were giving and what you received from that experience?
Yeah, so my CPA and CFP would say that I give too much, and I think I always push on them and say that's not possible, and so I'm always challenged because like I just believe that money is a resource that God that gives people, and that it's our responsibility to do something good with it. So whether it's money or a talent or a gift or a connection or name the thing, it's like what you don't give, you keep forever. And that's like that it just gets lost and you give it away forever because nobody gets to share it. And so I'm a huge philanthropist, and that's why I serve on several boards in things that I'm intimately connected to, and I share the resources and gifts that I have because I'm trained in these unique skill sets in helping other people live bigger lives. And so like Tony Robbins says it perfectly, and it's anchored in my mind, it's just the secret to living is giving. So anytime that I think there's more to take or there's more to get, I'm just like, no, how can I give in this situation? Because I know that if I live in the abundance and energy of abundance, that frequency will allow wealth and money and resources and connections to come into my life. And so how much money I have doesn't actually inspire me. It's the relationships that I have in my life that make me light up. It's not like what I have that I look for in people. It's like who do you have that's on your team and by your side?
That's awesome, Brett. I want to hear about the charities that you're working with because you are doing amazing work. But before we get there, I found an interesting nickname for you online.
Yeah.
And at one point, you were called Houston's Knight in Muddy Armor. So
Yeah.
can you tell me about what led to becoming a knight in muddy armor and that experience for you? Because it's an amazing story.
Oh man. Yeah, so this is going down the rabbit hole a bit, but I was deemed as a knight in muddy armor or Hurricane Harvey hero. I had put together a kind of a grassroots reconnaissance team with people that I knew that had high water vehicles. I mean, like literally, we were saving hundreds of people. And so, what I did that made the biggest impact is I just created a Facebook group, and within that Facebook group, I said, "Hey, anybody that needs to be rescued, post it here." And I put all the people in the group that I knew that had high water vehicles, and as a result, literally hundreds, if not thousands, of people got rescued. I personally picked up 56 people from seriously dangerous situations. And so that was kind of a unique thing. And people are like, why did you do that? You know, like you have this expensive, nice Jeep. And I was like, I don't know why I wouldn't have done that. Like I was given this Jeep for a reason, on purpose, for a purpose. And then I figured out this is this is why. And so, people asked me, why'd you do it? I said, I just literally boldly said, like, if you had the tools to save someone's life, and you didn't do it, wouldn't that that's like, I wouldn't feel good about that. And so I just, instead of being distracted by the news and things, I just leaped into action and got on my door and for days after days, just rescuing people and their belongings as much as possible and brought them to shelters, got them set up, and just went back into mission and just created this platform where people could, reach out if they needed anything. So it was super, super cool. I was like, really kind of humbled by the awards and the recognitions because I'm like, okay, guys.
That's incredible. I loved seeing the pictures of you with your Jeep and the stories that were behind that. And I love it really starts, I love the book, The Go-Giver, and what that taught me about how leading your life with giving is really how you receive everything that you ever want. It starts with showing up and using everything that you have to help and serve and lift and love other people. And that's what this story really illustrates. I think it shows that was a value that was deeply ingrained in you. And I'd love to know where that value developed and then how that's expressing itself now with the different charities that you're representing, because you're working with some really amazing groups that I love. And one of them that I just learned about, I'm excited to hear about, in the Hives for Heroes. So start with where did that seed get planted and how is that looking now?
Yeah, it's kind of like that journey within, that journey into like enlightenment, which can also be like the journey and the pathway with God, is like the more you understand who you are, like the more unbearable it becomes to be who you're not. And so when you understand like what actually makes you click and like what things like you can't go to bed without finishing, or you can't wake up and solve, that's what you need to be doing, right? If you think about what you're afraid of, that's what you need to study, because that's the thing that excites you and that's the problem you need to tap into. So the big things for me are giving kids access to quality education, giving kids hope and a chance in the world. And so that's a big one for me. And then also giving back to those who fought for our freedom. So our heroes, our first responders, people that have literally sacrificed their lives to save other people and to give us our freedom. And so the three organizations that I'm intimately in, there's actually four. I'm really active in another one, but I'll just share. It's a Aero Recovery Group, which does humanitarian disaster relief as well as anti-human trafficking efforts globally. Hives for Heroes, which is a collaboration and network of the world's, the world's largest network of beekeepers. And so what that looks like is we take veterans or first responders and we get them plugged into with a veteran beekeeper. Like they don't have to necessarily be a veteran, but an experienced beekeeper. And we teach them how to build an apiary, because apiaries can be an extremely good and beneficial business model. And so also bees are very good for helping with PTSD and trauma, because it's a whole process, right? Like you have to put your suit on, just like you put your suit on like you're going into war, into battle. You're with a group of people working the bees. You're likely usually not by yourself. And then, you have to be with nature, and being with nature is very uncomfortable for people. And so it makes you calm. It gives you this sense of like peace inside. And then lastly, you get amazing product from it, and that product is something that everyone should be taking. Without bees, our food supply would be completely screwed. And America, we don't, not America, anybody, we'd only live for like 2 years on planet Earth because we won't have any food, because they pollinate everything, right? And so those are the organizations. And then recently I've tapped into one called Sky High for Kids, and that's ending childhood cancer. And so those are some of the charities and nonprofits. I call them like they're like, I don't like the word nonprofit really, because it just doesn't like hit home for me. I call them like for purpose. So
I
like they're
love
my
that.
for purpose activities that I choose to plug into, and like a lot of other ones. If you check out what I'm doing on LinkedIn, I'm also involved locally with a lot of different things, because I believe in like give where you live. And so like um, urban harvest farmers market is incredible because it's bringing farmers together and getting people access to good food. America has a problem with our food supply and chain right now, and so it's just all these things are just great resources. But I would challenge any one of you to like get more serious about how you give. And if you do that, how you live will likely take an upgrade, because you're going to feel fulfilled.
Yeah, that's amazing, and what amazing causes to help further protecting people, serving people, providing for people. I just love what you're doing there, and especially for kids. Brett, you kind of have a reputation for someone that likes to take on goals that scare you.
Oh
So I'd
yeah.
love to know, what's the BHAG right now? What is that big, hairy, audacious goal that you look at and you're like, oh, wow, why did I choose that thing?
I have two, since I'm in kind of two spaces. So the one for Happy Life Labs is I'm going to help 1 million people live to be centenarians, which is past 100 years old. And I'm not saying just make it. I'm saying like thriving to 100 years old. And then on the aviation side is my goal there. My big, hairy, audacious goal is to help pioneer and solve point-to-point suborbital sub it's hard to even say. My goal in aviation and transportation is to help pioneer suborbital point to point transportation, which looks like getting anywhere in the world in under 2 hours.
Wow, that's incredible. Okay, we have just a few minutes, and there are one of the things, in fact, the thing that probably stands out that I remember a lot with my dad is anytime he wrote me a letter, oftentimes when we were speaking, and the words that are on his tombstone right now are remember the little things. And he really believed that there were little things that made all the difference in someone's life. You've recently become a father. If there were just a few little things that you could share with your son to provide direction, meaning, purpose, happiness for his life, what would those things be?
Hmm. So authenticity has the vibrational frequency that is about 1,000 times more strong than love. And so if I can teach my kid to live authentic in alignment with what he believes in, my job is done. And like all I can do to lead him closer to who he is to create experiences and to forge a future where he's seeing his dad as a strong, powerful man, like living into his own vision and showing him and including him in that vision, and not having any expectations about what his future is going to look like, because I want him to be able to forge his own path. But I know that like without giving him the opportunity to see what matters to him, he's going to just, adapt and transform and evolve perfectly into whatever's meaningful to him. And so, and also just setting him free and letting him know that being perfect is the lowest standard a human can have for themselves. That's a really important reminder, because, oftentimes, even myself, it's kind of like, oh, you got to get it right. If it's not right, it's wrong. it's like there's always a third option, right? And I felt stuck most of my life because I didn't feel perfect. I never did. I didn't get a lot of things right. You know, I wasn't a very good student. I was a good student because I busted my ass off. That's the only reason I got through my MBA and a really, hard undergraduate school, and like got myself, I just forged away through pure grit and determination. And I want him to see that, and I want to be a shining example because I know that hard situations are going to happen to him. And so if I can help him build resiliency and know who he is, then when those situations come to him, he can tap into himself instead of looking around at like who's going to solve the problem. He can tap into himself and say, I got this. I don't know what I'm doing, but I got this. And that's powerful, is knowing that your kids and your legacy got it, even if you're not there.
That's awesome, Brett. I love that. I've asked many people that question. I've never heard somebody answer with authenticity like that. And I love what you just taught. There's one other person that I'd like you to give the chance to talk to. You mentioned earlier that your dad was your hero. What would you like to tell your dad right now when he's arguably going through one of the most difficult challenges of his life? What do you want to say to your hero?
That's such a powerful question. And I actually did share this with him when I was with him, and so it's top of mind right now. But just simply what I'd share with him again is that I love you. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to become who I am today. I'm sorry if I did anything ever that wasn't in alignment with your expectations, but I'm so proud of the man you are, and I'm sorry that you're having to go through this. I know things may not seem okay right now, but we're going to get through this together. I love you so much, and you are my hero, Dad.
That's awesome. Is he able to respond, Brett? I don't know his condition, so...
Yeah, I have my dad walking, talking, reading, and so thankfully, because of the nature of my business and Happy Life Labs, I'm able to have access to resources, tools, technology, supplements, things that really help with situations like this. And so his recovery process is supposed to be not walking for 3 weeks, and we already have him walking. It was like 3 days. And so stepped into action. I knew when I got the message, the first thing I did was just get myself home. And I got the message when I was in Vermont at the GoBundance National Mastermind, and I shared with a few people, and I just felt an overwhelming support and hug, and I just prayed, and God would said, you got to be there. And just being there for people is probably the most powerful thing you can do.
And I think one of the things you'll regret the most if you're not, right?
Totally.
I love what you shared there. I'm so thrilled that you have the gift of some healing for your dad. What a beautiful thing that is, that life is such a precious thing that often we take it for granted until you get that phone call, you receive that text message, and all of a sudden it just seems like the world really comes into focus, and all of a sudden what really matters is right in front of you. I can see a man whose dad taught him to be authentic and who's living the best version of himself. And that is a gift that your dad has given to the world, as he's given you. And I am grateful for that. I know that anybody listening to this show is going to walk away with a few little things that are going to make a big difference for them. So thank you for bringing that gift to our show today, Brett.
Yeah, you're welcome. It was an absolute pleasure and blessing to be on here with you, Alan. And I'm grateful for anybody that can get some insight from our call today.
Awesome. Okay, everybody, remember the little things and enjoy an authentic life full of purpose, passion, happiness, and prosperity. That's plain success. Brett Harmeling is an amazing example of somebody that loves to give. I have the privilege of working with thousands of pilot volunteers who love to give their time, their aircraft, and the use of their skills as pilots to serving people in need. Angel Flight West provides free flights for people in need of medical care or other compelling human needs far from home. If you or somebody that you love is traveling for medical care for any reason, please reach out to us. We would love to help. You can find us at www.angelflightwest.org.